Hello, welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. Today we're going to be doing what we always do on the weekends, and that's special selection. Today's special selection, this weekend's going to be pretty interesting because I had one person support the channel with 3 separate song suggestions. So we got Louis Zanoni. Wants me to check out Panopticon, The Wind's Farewell, Godspeed You, Black Emperor. I said that wrong. Godspeed You, Black Emperor. We Drift Like Worried Fire, and Sufjan Stevens, Tanya Harding. So, we're going to devote the weekend to you, Louis. Instead of doing 2 reactions for the weekend, we're going to do 3. 2 short ones today, and then that Godspeed You one tomorrow, because that was double digits. I don't remember what it was. It was a long one. So, alright, Louis. Today, right now, we're going to do Panopticon, and probably around the same time as this goes live, we will also have the Sufjan Stevens reaction. But until we get to that one, let's check out this one. Panopticon sounds familiar, but I'm not sure if that's just because they're highly requested or if we've done them before. I'm not sure. But I also have no idea what we're in for either because, like I said, if we did them, they're not leaving any sort of discernible mark on my memory. So I'm kind of going in blind here, even if we have done them before. Let's see what we got here. Panopticon, The Wind's Farewell. They're losing me on that drum sounds. There's a lot of emphasis on the offbeat here, specifically leading into one of the next bar. The starting note from the next bar will usually be hit on the and or 4 of the previous bar. So it gives that first beat of the bar a sort of airiness. I really like that. Maybe not airiness, like a sort of suspension going on. Talk about an anticlimax. Nice little drum fill there. Bring in a bit of the melody from the beginning, but give it on a clean guitar rather than distortion. Alright, maybe it's that, that was bad. Maybe it's the drony ambient send-off that we had at the end there, but I get like album closer on this one, and I don't know. We've had this before where songs have a lot of emotional resonance as long as you have the context to them, and I am missing context here. I can hear that it's supposed to be emotionally resonant. I can hear that the atmosphere is meant to drive emotions rather than analytical listening. I mean, most of that's just because it's like a post-rock drone. We only have two sections, really, and well, we have three sections but two concepts, and we kind of bounce back between them. We have the opening and then the middle, and then the end repeats the opening in concept. Very little movement of ideas in here. So I mean that's just a dead giveaway for it being a bit more of an emotional, atmospheric song rather than something to analyze and dig into the specifics of how the music is written and how it works together. But to me, it definitely feels like this track is more emotionally resonant than some of the atmospheric, post rock stuff that we've heard in the past. Not to say that that stuff isn't emotionally resonant or emotionally charged. This one just feels more so. And some of that may come from the tone, which I think is the most glaring thing for me. It was one of the first things I pointed out. It needs to be talked about. And it kind of goes a little bit into the mixing. And I'm sure there's going to be people who absolutely love the sound of this song. And again, I said I'm missing context. I don't know how this fits into the album. I don't know the story that it's trying to tell. But just as a reactionary listen, first time, have no context, I gotta say I'm not loving the tone of anything. The drums are muffled. Now, I know there's been a lot of discussion in the comments when I've brought up mixing before about clean versus dirty mixes. I am a supporter of clean mixing in rock and metal. And maybe that's just because I'm used to classical and especially jazz. Jazz is very crisp. I think it's because both of those are also highly live, performative styles of music, whereas pretty much modern anything is more engineered. All of it's almost done in a studio. Um, but a lot of classical and jazz is live performances and it's not amplified. All right, your singer might be mic'd, and maybe when you have a soloist, they might go up to a mic, but for the most part, you're getting the raw, crisp sound of the instruments, and that's just what I like. I like to hear individual instruments. That's not to say that I need a clean mix on every song I listen to. I've mentioned a couple of times in the past where dirty mixes have really amplified the intent of a song. If it's supposed to be a muddy, dirty narrative, having a muddy, dirty sound really works with that. But for me, it's not working here. And like I said, most of that is just, it's really going to come down to the fact that I don't have the context for the song. I don't know why it's dirty. Maybe, I mean, it could just be the band's signature sound. And it's just how they make all their songs, in which case, since that connection isn't there between the narrative and the music, I'm not going to enjoy it regardless. But for whatever reason, it does not work for me on this song. Um, and that also ties into the tones of the instruments. There's a lot of dirty grittiness here. I mean, yeah, the mix itself makes everything a bit muddied, and it works to an effect to amplify the sound stage, or sorry, to amplify the instruments to fill the sound stage. All of the sounds are large. All right, they're very overdone and it fills up the space phenomenally. It sounds like there's maybe three instruments here. Definitely a bass, definitely drums, definitely guitar, maybe a second guitar, and that's about all I heard. But it is a very big sound, and a lot of that can be contributed to the mixing style, making it, muddy and kind of, instead of a bunch of separate ideas, they've kind of clumped together into this, mass of sound. And that's definitely one way to get a very large sound. And this is supposedly about wind of some sort. I'm going to get on that in a second, but it makes sense if you want some sort of howling wind to go with the distortion and the large sounds. But yeah, it's just a lot of the tones just didn't work for me on their own. And like I said, it kind of, I'm kind of developing like a defense. I'm like, yeah, if this was about wind, which it's called Wind's Farewell, this all works. I'm like slowly convincing myself that this is a sound I should enjoy. I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, so just the tone and the mix and the way that the instruments are played, um, Hmm. So the wind is like a thing, right? All right. Duh, Brian, what are you talking about? But no, seriously, like you can have a gust of wind hit you and you can kind of feel a singled out breeze, but the wind isn't a single thing, it's a bunch of things. Well, that is to say, the wind is a large entity. It is an all encompassing. You're not feeling a breeze, you're feeling a portion of the breeze. It is not a singular breeze, you're just feeling a fraction of the whole. And I can kind of see that working into the music. Like I said, the instruments at times can I mean, you can hear them all distinctly. You can hear the bass, you can hear the guitar, you can hear the drums, but they do all come together into a single mass of atmosphere. In, I mean, especially after we get through the intro and we get to like the 3 and 4 minute mark, especially at the end when the drums start going crazy, it is a wall of sound, really. And the winds can be felt as walls too. So I don't know. I'm coming around to it. Individually, though, the tones in the mix just don't hit me. I'm kind of coming around to it working thematically, though. But let's get off. I think I've exhausted the topic of tone. Let's get to those drums. All right, they were the standout for me. Maybe it's because they were the only thing that developed any sort of arc of movement and change, but just phenomenal work. Couple of runs at the beginning, some fills. I was like, all right, cool. We got some chops here. Then he started doing these like triplet accented beats where he was accenting every 1.5 beats, which sounded completely weird when the rest of the song was pretty much static, on the beat, kind of drum playing, metronome style. And then he comes in with those snares, those, like I said, like dotted quarter note snares, really giving it a weird, disjointed, accented rhythm pattern. And I was like, all right, cool. We're getting some interesting stuff in the rhythm. And then the dude pulls out blast beats, and that goes on for a bit. And even on the outro, he started showing off some chops with, some fills like every other bar or something like that. So yeah, drums were definitely the standout for me. But like I said, it's not really fair. Nobody else was really spotlighting themselves. So this could have been a way just for the drummer to show off. Maybe the guitarist showed off, throughout the album, and this was the drummer's turn, or maybe that's just how the band is. I don't know, but nobody else was really doing anything impressive musically. Well, I should say impressive technically. The drummer was just killing it, though. Definitely spotlighted himself. Speaking of that blast beat section, it doesn't work. Uh, is what I thought when I listened to it. It came out of nowhere. It didn't seem to jive with anything that was going before it. When it transitioned out, it was a nice transition, but that concept still doesn't fit into the song as a whole, as far as I see it. I'm sure there's some narrative purpose for it. Maybe the winds picked up before they left because it is called The Wind's Farewell. Again, we're going to touch on that because that's there's a spelling thing in there. There's some grammar in there we got to touch on. Um, but outside of the narrative of, the wind maybe picking up a little bit and getting a little gusty before petering out, I guess would be the right word. It just doesn't fit in the song. It comes out of nowhere and it doesn't transition into anything that reflects it. It kind of goes in the opposite direction. Speaking about transitions that don't reflect what they should be doing, like in the 2 minute mark, we had a nice build up. Snare started coming in, doing a roll on the snares. We had the bass kicks went to like every beat. Guitars were strumming harder, and we were building, and then we dropped off. Like there was no big part. But the big part we did get was not at the end of a build up, so it was immediate. None of the transitions really matched what I expect, and that's kind of characteristic of Wind. So I don't know. I'm getting real torn on this. All right, I don't enjoy the song, musically, but I'm coming around to enjoying the song thematically. And usually when I get that sort of dissonance in the music, or in my perception of the music, that is, it's one of those songs that I enjoy. Well, I'm appreciative that it exists, but it's not something I'm going to go back and listen to very often, if ever. And I think that's where we're heading here. I still got a few more thoughts in my mind though, so let's keep thinking our way through this. Let's see where this progresses. I do want to touch on, before we jump to anything else. I don't know if I have much else to say though. The title of this song is "The Wind's Farewell," but it's not apostrophe s. It's not saying that the wind is saying goodbye. It's saying the wind's farewell. And for whatever reason, my brain's not comprehending this. Like, there are multiple wind goodbye. You can't even feel the wind, feel all the wind. Wind is not something that you pluralize, at least not in North American English. Wind is one of those words that, like fish, just says itself no matter how much of it exists. So there's a plural here that doesn't make any sense. And the sentence, even if winds was the plural of wind, I don't know. I feel like this is simple. I don't know why this isn't comprehending for me. Something's not clicking here. Maybe it's because my brain really wants that apostrophe to be there. It wants the wind to own its farewell. But for whatever reason, I don't know. I'm staring at this and it's not making any sense to me. But here's the interesting thing. The other thing that is kind of a contradiction to me is that this comes off of the Autumn Eternal album. Now, I don't know how autumn is for other areas of the world. I was going to say countries, but even in North America, even in the United States, autumn can be different between regions. So I'm going to stick with across the world. Where I'm at, autumn is hurricane season. And an eternal autumn would be eternal gusty days. Like, I can't imagine an autumn, a fall, without any wind. Wind does not say goodbye in autumn for me, for my region, my area. So it could very much be a regional thing. I don't know where Panopticon is from, but that stuck out to me right from the bat. I don't know. That's a weird contradiction for me. And then the title is weird because I'm still not understanding that for some reason. And there's just a lot of weird stuff going on with the track title and the album title for me. But that's not musical, so we're gonna move on from that. I guess that's about it. You can't really talk about the structure much. It is sort of that post-rock drone. The same thing happens at the beginning as it does at the end. I will say that I really enjoyed, I pointed it out at the beginning, that they had a pickup hold on the and of 4 going into the next beat every other repetition. And it gets this really disjointedness, and the really cool thing was that the drum was emphasizing almost every beat, I think. It was either a snare or a bass kick on 1, 2, 3, and 4. But the cool thing is, when we had that and of 4, that little pickup note holding over, so we were getting like a dotted quarter in essence, even though it was technically an eighth tied to a quarter in the next bar. The drum did not hit on that beat 1. If it did, it was a cymbal, but it wasn't, an emphasis percussion for it. And it gave this weightlessness there. We have this rigid beat, and then there's no beat for 1.5 beats, and it's this pocket of weightlessness. Really interesting. And the cool thing is they did it every other repetition, so it wasn't the end of 4 did not tie to the beat 1 of the next bar every time. It was every other time. So you had this nice, because So I think the weightlessness wouldn't have worked. We talked about this yesterday, I think, with utilizing longer spaces of time so that the brain can forget about the irregularity. And I think that's what's happening here. If they did it every time, you just anticipate it and it would be part of the beat, it would be part of the flow. But the fact that I I caught it this time. I caught it this time. Sometimes the music plays and I forget about it, but I caught it. I went back to look at the album title, and yeah, so we've had music for a bit. But anyways, yes, if they had done it every time, like I said, you wouldn't really get that pocket of weightlessness. It would become the pattern, and it would just be the flow of the section, and your body would adjust to it. But by doing it every other time, you have 7 beats of hits and then 1 beat of weightlessness, and it's just enough. So 1 out of 4 is pretty frequent, but 1 out of 8 is not. Well, it's less frequent. If you go 1 out of 16, it's even less frequent, and your brain will forget about it. And the impact should be more impactful at that. But you also risk having it, so far out that it feels too disjointed. So this is just a nice medium between being too repetitious and not repetitious enough to have that effect. So yeah, I really dug that in the beginning. But yeah, this is pretty standard post-rock fare, which just it's not my cup of tea as I'm learning, though I do appreciate what they've done and how they've kind of embodied the wind in some sort, somehow. Um, and like I said, there is component I am missing here. There's some context I think for me to get the full emotional value out of this track because I didn't really get that. Um, I didn't really enter that trance state either. I think a lot of that's because of the drums. Like I said, there's a lot of movement in the drums, and it kept my mind busy. So yeah, good song overall. Just not something I'd come back to if ever. But that's fine. Not every song needs to be my exact cup of tea or I need to listen to it 10 times a day. This is where you guys come in, though. I gave you my opinions. You give me your opinions. Hit me up in the comments section. Let me know what you thought of Panopticon's The Wind's Farewell. Maybe somebody can explain that title to me because, like I said, it doesn't look difficult. I should be able to understand this, but I don't know. And like I said, you can hit me up. Let me know what you guys thought of Panopticon. And if there's anything I'm missing, is this the album ender like I think it is? All right. After that, you can check out the description box for some links that are adjacent to the channel. And I'll be back. I should have another video out with this one for Sufjan Stevens. And then tomorrow I'll be back at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 p.m. UTC, with Lewis's next suggestion. Special selection. There we go. All right, until then, you guys stay safe out there, keep being awesome, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.